Did you have some experience? Were you a punter, as they say? Were you going out to clubs? What was your relationship to the scene, as it were?
Yeah, I did a bit of research in my time.
We'll get to that in a minute. So, obviously, if you reverse time a little bit and you go back to the point to where people would look at DJs and look at, Chemical Brothers and all these other artists, duos, bands, and say, two people behind a bunch of equipment does not a show make? How's this ever? I mean, that was the attitude, for a lot of years. And when did things change? And when did it hit you like, I'm going to make a film? Like, I'm going to make something that's worth, this time, a theater and all that?
Well, we sort of always wanted to, I'd always wanted to capture it somehow. But we had this thing that, if you weren't there, then you couldn't experience it for a long, long time. And then this year it was almost about, it's about time really, 18 years, we should try and capture what we've been doing for this long. So, we got some money and then ran out of it very quickly.
And you were, the visuals that you see in the entire production, this is really
this isn't my phone, yeah. Okay, yes, sir. I like this guy. He's got us all in order,
The visuals are fantastic. And tell me, do you create everything there?
Yeah, it's is it the iPad? No,
the iPad? Great. All my stuff's on it.
It's just to sell stuff.
Me and another guy called Marcus Lyle, and we make up visuals.
Okay.
So I'm getting distracted with iPads.
Airplane mode.
Yeah.
Airplane mode.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly.
For that.
What's that?
Okay. Airplane mode, just like
okay.
kill the signal. So what's the process for doing a project like this? Like you've got the visuals, you've got the whole show. What did you choreograph in terms of the audience? And it looks like obviously you've got recurring characters in there.
Yeah.
How did that all come together?
Very quickly, because the film kind of wasn't going to happen and there wasn't enough money to do it, and then about 2 weeks before we were just about to say, no, we can't do this is not enough to do it properly, to do it justice, to have enough time to edit, to have enough cameras, and then one of the management just phoned me up and said, look, if we don't do this now, it's never going to happen, and so he was very persuasive, and I'm really, really grateful to him that he was, because so we decided to do it, and it was. So don't think there's a good name for the film really, because that was the kind of creative mantra for the whole thing.
You had to not think to get it done.
Yeah, just had to make decisions really quickly, which sometimes creatively is a good thing, I think, because you can. Well, for me anyway, my head can. If I take too long on things, I've destroyed an idea before it's even had a chance to blossom, and it was, we had this limited time to prepare, and we just planned as much as we could, really, and the real challenge was how to hold an audience for 90 minutes, and to make them have an emotional connection with it, rather than it just being a spectacle that you see, So that's where the idea for having members of the audience and the girl that kind of.
I was going to ask you. She gets a closing credit, I see.
Yeah,
who is she? Everybody has, I'm sure, guessing, trying to think. Is she connected with the band? What's the deal? Come on.
No, she's actually the girlfriend of one of the editors, but she's a massive Chemical Brothers fan, and she's an amazing character, Mario. She's really, if you're at a party, you definitely meet her. She kind of gets around, and I don't mean that in that way. She's really, really funny and very gregarious and very outgoing, but she's never done any acting before, and I was struggling with this idea of how do we let an audience into this experience? How do you connect with it? Because a spectacle's not going to last brilliant as the music is, and hopefully the show, people like the show. It's not going to keep an audience for 90 minutes if we just have that. We won't get away with it. So the idea was I asked her to come and if we could film her, and she was a bit apprehensive at first, and then she agreed to it, and then we did these sequences around the festival, and she was very nervous at first, and then I have to confess that I asked her if she wanted a drink or two, and that sort of loosened her up, which isn't something I shouldn't admit to, really. But, anyway.
If it's just a drink, I mean, I want to know about kind of how it got pretty psychedelic at that point. You were sending these signals to those of us who may have been out going to clubs for the larger part of our lives. Is that kind of code for just? It was a pretty trippy show, without being so blatant. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I mean, I did one of these in England, and someone was saying, making all these references about, it's drugs, and I got, it's drug-related experiences, and I got very angry and said, no, why can't we have, if we were, I don't know, 2 or 3 years old, and we were running around, and we said there's insects on the floor, there'd be insects on the floor, right? That's,
right.
It's kind of your imagination. And then this person that asked the question said, well, yes, but it's called the Chemical Brothers, and they are pretty but so, I don't know, it's about having an experience. I don't know that necessarily has to be induced by anything. One would hope that's, you watch that film and you have an experience, and you don't need anything. And if people do, then they do, but,
I think you were able to convey that this is a level of maybe appreciation for the whole scene and the music without being so, here's a bunch of Ito fans and stuff. I think you really had a
Well, that was
balance.
what was so amazing about Japan, was that that's exactly, I don't think there weren't that many people doing all that sort of stuff.
Well, which brings me to a question. Yeah, why there? Why Fuji Rock? It's for me, it's a. For me, it's this is on my bucket list of festivals to go to.
It's amazing.
I've always wanted to. Obviously, it's at the base of Mount Fuji to an extent, and to get this.
It's actually not.
It's not. Okay.
Yeah, it's a better story if it is.
Well, okay, fine. I always envision it right below, and you look up. But it looked wet. It was this weather. What was the deal?
It did rain. It started raining halfway through the set, which was really a bit worrying, and then it stopped. So, but we also that was a bit of kind of creative license. There was a bit of rain in some of the shots, and it was like, this looks a bit strange. There's some rain in some shots and not in the others, so we cheated and we added a bit, and we put some thunder in and we put some lightning in, just to, because.
And do you from the experience of this, you got the warning, like don't dancing and whatnot. There was a film that was supposed to come out, I guess it was last summer now, the Electric Daisy Carnival documentary, which even in the screening, there was like a near riot on Hollywood Boulevard. I don't know if you heard about this, but Cascade, this big artist, came out and played. It was a mess. And they couldn't bring the film to the theaters that summer because of all of the hoopla. Are you trying to create a new way of an experience of watching film, or did you always say, well, eventually this will be just a DVD at home, or how did you visualize how you wanted to bring this to life in terms of the audience and participation and any of that?
It wasn't really a conscious thing. I just really wanted to capture what it's like to be there, to be at Chemical Brothers gig. What does it feel like? What does it, what does it do to you? And also what, often you see sort of coverage of bands or stuff on the television, and it's all from these angles that are very kind of away, and I wanted to be in there and feeling it, and also sometimes, if I'm at a gig, I'll close my eyes and kind of my imagination will go off somewhere else. I wanted to capture those moments, and those characters that you notice that are kind of next to you or behind you, or just that sort of thing, and sometimes you'll just be thinking about the visuals, maybe. Sometimes you'll be thinking about other people. Sometimes you'll be thinking, I don't know, about your dinner. It's kind of.
I think you did that very well, and I just wanted to say, what's your the production group that you work with? Obviously, this is part of Ridley Scott's world. That's amazing. He's obviously a legend. Does that influence your work, his work, or just being in that environment? Or?
Yeah, I mean, he's just amazing. But yeah, I mean, RSA, we wouldn't have been able to make it without RSA because it's RSA Black Dog. Black Dog's the kind of promo music division. There's a few RSA people here tonight. I don't know if they're still here, but yeah, no, they were just incredibly supportive, and it was hard, because we ran out of. I mean, not hard like we weren't working in the mines, but we ran out of money in the edit, and we had to, the record company wanted their film that we promised to deliver on a certain date, and RSA really kind of helped through their powers of diplomacy and just supported making it happen and allowing us to make the film we wanted to make rather than stopping at a certain point when it wasn't finished, really.
Well, before I turn it over to questions, what's next? What do you want to do next? What do you want to conquer in film? For this show, I'd love to do something that's more of an experience, to push that idea of an experience so that it's not just going to a gig. So if we still had clowns in the show, then there might be a load of people dressed as clowns that tap you on the shoulder. One step too far, because there were a lot of jumps just when that one thing.
Or having the dancers just come to life, jump. You see them on the screen, and then they start bouncing up and down in front of you. Or there's an amazing theatre company in England called Punch Drunk, and they do this kind of immersive theatre experience where it's somewhere between a kind of rave and an art installation. And I want to do something, talking about collaborating with them, but so you go to a Chemical Brothers show and you kind of have this experience, It's
maybe something in the hologram realm?
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Questions? People want some? I don't know where to go first, but I'm going to go here. It's easy.
Do you think this film captured the Chemical Brothers experience? And is there one show that stands out in your mind that you've seen?
Everybody can hear that, right? In the back?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope so. That's what we tried to do. One show. I think there's a lot of them. There's a lot of different shows. There was some of the early shows in America when we were just running around with sort of two slide projectors and a film projector, 16mm film projector. That was quite fun. And I remember a show in Japan actually early on, about 15, or maybe longer, 17 years ago, and it was upstairs at a shopping centre. There was a nightclub, and it was on at about 7 o'clock, and it was tiny, but it was really, it went mad. In fact, I left the projectors and went dancing in the middle of the audience and started lifting people up because I thought it was a good idea at the time.
Have you seen them perform live?
Yeah, I've seen it around the world.
Yeah. I think it really nails it pretty well.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Another question? Okay.
Yeah, I was curious to know I thought it was awesome. And I was curious to know in terms of the technical way in which it seemed so seamless, like there was these wide shots where it seemed like there was no cameras around, and then you got so close up, and was it over several different concerts that you shot it, or?
No, it was one night. That was at Fuji Rock Festival, it's funny you say that because I noticed every time I see it on the big screen, I kind of go, oh, there's another camera that you can see. Oh, there's another. But luckily, because you're looking at the bigger picture, you don't see them. So, but we did try to do it so that you didn't see the cameras, and also it was one of the stipulations that Ed and Tom had was like. And we all agreed on, which was, you don't have cameras whizzing in front of the thing. And when you're at a gig and you see it being filmed, it spoils it for me. So we didn't want to. It still had to be a great night for the audience that were there. There were 50,000 people there. So
What was...
You can't start throwing cameras in front. It's just rude, isn't it?
You had 21 cameras, 21 people shooting, and what type of equipment? For just a quick overview.
Oh, it was a real mix. There was 9 cameras that were there, which were good kind of HD cameras that were part of Fuji Rock, but they were very sort of in traditional places. And much as I tried to push them to do things that were outside their comfort zone, it didn't quite work. It was kind of like, no, I want them to zoom in and out, like really fast, and it's really trepidatious, if that's a word, gentle zooms in, no, shake the camera, and then someone...
So did you accomplish that in post, kind of bring that, or?
Yeah, I mean, actually...
You did get some, there was some jarring stuff in there.
Well, we had 9 cameras there, and then we had 4 or 5 cameras looking through the audience, the kind of YouTube cameras, if you like, they were like the phone ones. And then 4 or 5 that were on audience members, just on audience members, nothing else. And then there was some cameras rigged up in the lights, and then some cameras rigged on Ed and Tom's equipment to capture them. And yeah, there was a lot. There was the poor producer. I was just going, we need more cameras, just because it was one night, so you just had to grab as many as we could.
Incredible to be able to capture that and have invested that trust that night would yield.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it wasn't an easy do-over, Let me get in the back there. Gentlemen.
First off, I love your work. I think that you're like the third Chemical Brother. If you wasn't doing what you do, their show would not be complete to me. And thank you. Also, love the work of Doctor Who, and I'd like to see more sci-fi from you, but my only question is really, whose idea was the teapot?
The teapot?
Yeah, it's teapot.
That was my idea, yeah. I don't know, yeah. It was this kind of idea that runs through the show of kind of seeing objects that are familiar in life, but in an unfamiliar way. So I don't know how those things. Don't think that's the best sort of best. That's why the title, when that song, Ed and Tom had that song, it was like, actually, that's got to be the title.
Great, and I would agree. Third member, right here.
You never get it commissioned, sorry, would you? It's like, we've got some exploding teapots, and then some insects, and then there's a clown, and people would be like, that sounds rubbish, but, people seem to like it, so it's good. Sorry.
I guarantee you they're going to get more headlining gigs after this. I just got back from Coachella. I would have switched Swedish House Mafia in a heartbeat. I hate, but really.
Yeah, well, it was very long. There was 40 hours of footage. And it just took a lot longer than we anticipated, and there was quite a lot of, what we found was that the stuff that really seemed to make it more immersive and feel like you were kind of in the visuals more was to layer up the visuals and to make, so we did a lot of that work, but tried to make it feel like we hadn't just kind of stuck a layer of visuals on the top. And so it was long and painful at times, and then joyous at other times, and you have that kind of thing where you get the rushes back and you're very excited, and it's going to be great, and then you kind of a few 4 or 5 weeks in, you're like, oh God, what are we going to do? This is a disaster. This is terrible. But yeah, a lot of post-production work, and some of that was planned. Like we had we specifically shot things a certain way so that we could overlay visuals, like in the crowd shots when the figures go fly through the air.
Yeah, that was, rarely do you watch a film that's a concert film or just a documentary of a show like that and really have to question how some of this stuff is occurring. Did it occur in post? Did they, I don't even ask because it all sounds stupid, but it just, to your credit, that was done to where you're actually looking and saying, wow, that would be cool if they really did do that, and I assume that most of all that happened, or at least it was it accented through editing?
Yeah, it was.
I don't want you to give away tricks, but
no, it was. We didn't unfortunately, we don't have a projector that can project on the
Right.
clouds. But that's what it was supposed to look like, you know.
That's
But
amazing.
on the other hand, we did take, you know, the whole. I wanted to
Right.
show this amazing festival and show the kind of festival experience a bit, but without it just being cutaways that weren't related to the show. So that's why Mario was brilliant, because that was a route out of away from the gig and to the festival, but connected to it. And then we took projectors out there, and we sort of had this mount that you could put the projector on your body and project and move around with it. It was all running off an iPhone, which someone had managed to.
They're very problematic.
Yeah,
Sorry.
right, yeah. But someone had managed to smash the screen, so it'd be like, okay, play the clown. And like, that's not the clown, that's the. You know, you couldn't actually see what you were doing. So you know, in a professional outfit, we were. So yeah, those are, you know, most of them are, I think, you know, in-camera effects are, you know, they're not given the credit that they should be, because you know you could do amazing things.
Another question from the audience. I see a guy way in the back.
Hey, I got a question about audio mastering. One of the really cool things, I mean, visuals were awesome, but what was the idea, or kind of how did you guys approach the challenge of trying to replicate just the sound that the Chemical Brothers have at their shows? Because there's such a, you know, they've got that deep bass rolling through, and I noticed that it seemed like it was just coming from the front of the screen and versus using the 7.1 kind of stuff. So just wondering what the idea was behind that, or how you tackled that.
Well, I mean, Tom got all the stuff back. You know, Tom had got it all we had loads of different mics that we'd recorded, different perspectives, and got it back, and ended up not changing. He started trying to mend things, you know, that he was like, oh, there's a mistake there, and then he just ended up concluding that it should be the way it was that night. So that was the idea, is to try and keep it as true to how it was that night. And yeah, it is in 7.1, and we, you know, to be honest, we had limited time and money in the sound thing, and you know, I wanted to do all sorts of things where the sound flew around the cinema, and you know, but we just didn't have time to do it. You get it a bit when you get Mario's Journeys. You get a bit of a. Is it 7.1? I don't know if it's 7.1. My friend would know. It's 7.5. Right. I don't know what that is, but
0.4 more than I know. Any other thoughts, questions?
Yeah.
All right, there you go. Well, thank you very much for coming and hang out and talk if you want, but thank you.
Thank you as well.
Thank
very
you.
much.
I appreciate it.